Brushes are a very powerful tool in Photoshop, and even more powerful when you take into account that a lot of the features utilize things like pen pressure and pen tilt. Now these are two things that the mouse cannot give you. You can't press down on the mouse to make a difference, and you certainly can't tilt it. In fact, it won't even work if you tilt it. That's where the stylus that's attached to tablets and the Cintiq really comes in handy, because there is a pen pressure and pen tilt attached to these particular tools. It's also better the way you hold it. Rather than holding this little bar of soap, you hold it like what you were taught, how you were taught to hold a crayon back in kindergarten. You're holding this the same way, which is a lot easier on your hand. And the beauty of this is that pen tilt and that pen pressure. A lot of those tools will utilize that. Now, in the movies on brushes, you'll see that there's a one where I create this little fur ball. Now that fur ball is totally dependent on the tilt of my stylus. Let's go here and look at this. I'm using one of the bristle brushes that come with CS5, and I'm going to go into my brushes engine here where I'm going to modify it a little bit. I'm going to increase the number of bristles. I'm going to increase their length a bit, and I'm going to bring down the thickness and the stiffness. I'm going to bring that way down. Okay, and I'm going to go into my shape dynamics where I'm going to set the angle to direction. That's looking good. I'm going to do a little color dynamics as well. Now that I have all these features set up, and let's just go in here and get that thickness down, the number of bristles, okay, about like that. There we go, that's looking good. So now what happens here is that I'm going to go in here, I'm going to twirl. I'm going to twirl this to get this little fur ball. So as I twirl my little stylus around, you can see that I'm creating this little fur ball. Something that you can't do very easily with the mouse. But because I can go in here and just twirl this around like that, it makes that difference to create those little fur shapes that I want. So now, talked about pressure sensitivity. Now that's really crucial, because you can set pressure sensitivity for so many different things. The flow, the opacity, so many things can be controlled by it, even the size. And that will make a difference. Now you have full controls over the amount of pressure that you're going to place. So if you have a heavy hand, you're going to have a different setting than, say, your 7-year-old son who comes over to play with your computer who won't have as heavy a hand. You have control over these settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of the other brushes. So I just pick a soft edge brush right here, which is going to go just do that, just a stroke. But if I go in there and start applying some functions to this, so I'll go into my brush engine again, and I got my transfer mode set. And I have opacity set to pen pressure. And I have the flow set to pen pressure. And I can even go in there and say, in shape dynamics, set the size to pen pressure. So now I have everything set to pen pressure. So when I start to paint with that same brush, but with these new settings, if I press very lightly, I get a very thin line. If I press heavier, it starts to thicken. So I can go in there and have full control over these kinds of strokes that I'm going to get, which I didn't have before. So I can get really thin strokes, very light strokes, or very heavy strokes where I'm getting a lot of ink being applied. So you can see where things like pen tilt and pen pressure are so crucial. A lot of the effects that you were trying to get sometimes will be a lot easier by simply using a stylus over that of a mouse.